The snow fell in thick curtains across the Kesher Valley, each flake a white bullet erasing visibility. Commander Nathan Hayes pressed himself against the frozen rock face, watching his breath crystallize in the air. December 24th, Christmas Eve. The kind of night when wars were supposed to pause, when men remembered they were human. Not here, not tonight. Commander, satellites down to 15%, Lieutenant Marcus Webb reported through the comms, his voice tight. Weather's getting worse. Evac window closes in 4 hours. Hayes scanned the valley through thermal optics. Nothing but white noise and ghost signatures from wind-blown snow. Team Bravo 12 operators had been pinned in this godforsaken valley for 18 hours. What should have been a simple extraction had turned into a frozen nightmare. Copy that. Hold position. Nobody moves until I say. But something else gnawed at Hayes. Something the intel brief had mentioned in passing, like a footnote nobody wanted to read aloud. Commander, Sergeant Rachel Torres moved up beside him, her rifle trained on the ridgeline 3 kilometers north. You think it's true? About the ghost? Hayes didn't answer immediately. The ghost. Winter Ghost. A legend whispered in briefing rooms and barracks. A sniper who'd vanished 5 years ago after a mission went catastrophically wrong. Some said she died in an avalanche. Others claimed she'd been executed by her own government. The ones who knew better said nothing at all. Intel says someone's been tracking us for 72 hours, Hayes finally responded. Long range, precise, professional. Could be enemy scouts. Could be. Hayes lowered his optics. But enemy scouts don't leave single boot prints in deliberate patterns. They don't fire warning shots that miss by exactly 2 meters. And they sure as hell don't operate at ranges beyond 3,200 meters. Torres fell silent. Every operator on Team Bravo had heard the stories. A woman who could read wind like poetry, who calculated bullet trajectories the way mathematicians solved equations instinctively, perfectly, who'd once saved an entire platoon with a single shot at 2,900 meters. Her name had been Elara Quinn. Hayes had served with her, briefly, long enough to understand that she operated on a different frequency than other snipers. While others talked about the art and science of long-range shooting, Elara simply existed in that space between trigger and target. She didn't aim. She knew. Then came the last mission. The one nobody talked about. The one where she'd been declared KIA killed in action even though no body was ever recovered. Sir, movement on the eastern slope. Webb's voice cut through Hayes' thoughts. Multiple heat signatures. Wait. They're gone. Thermal's playing tricks. No, not tricks. Discipline. Whoever was out there knew how to manage their heat signature, how to disappear against the snow's thermal backdrop. Hayes keyed his radio to command frequency. Overwatch, Bravo 6. Confirming presence of unknown sniper in operational area. Request identity confirmation on Winter Ghost. Static crackled. Then a new voice, cold, bureaucratic. Bravo 6. Winter Ghost is KIA as of 5 years ago. No active file. That's not what I asked. More static. Then, stand by. The night pressed closer. Somewhere in that endless white, someone was watching them through a scope. Someone who could end any of their lives with a single trigger pull. The question that haunted Hayes, the question that would haunt him for the rest of this mission was simple and terrifying. Who's she targeting? The mission brief had been straightforward. CIA analyst Benjamin Cross had been captured near the border during a reconnaissance operation. Standard hostage extraction. Get in, secure the asset, get out. But Hayes had learned long ago that standard was usually code for "we're not telling you everything." Bravo 2. Status on approach routes, Hayes ordered. Corporal Devin Matthews consulted his tactical display. North routes blocked by snowdrift. East is open but exposed. South. South's got weird topology. Commander. Too many blind angles. Define weird. Like someone designed it for an ambush. Hayes felt the familiar weight in his gut, the instinct that separated survivors from casualties. Pull-up terrain analysis. Full spectrum. The data painted an ugly picture. The valley funneled into a natural kill zone. 3 elevated positions with overlapping fields of fire. Limited cover. Difficult extraction points. Whoever had positioned Cross's bait had done their homework. They want us to come, Torres observed. All this, it's a Venus flytrap. Numbers? Thermal's picking up at least 40 hostiles, probably more we're not seeing. Hayes studied the tactical display. 40 against 12. Poor odds made worse by terrain, weather, and zero air support. The smart play was to abort, pull back, wait for conditions to improve. But Cross didn't have time. Intel suggested he'd be executed at dawn, some symbolic gesture timed to Christmas morning. Webb, tell me about our scouts' findings. Lieutenant Webb zoomed in on a series of images captured by their reconnaissance drone before the weather killed it. Found boot prints here, he indicated a ridge 2 kilometers northwest. Single operator, size 7 boots, military pattern. Light load, maybe 60 pounds total. Moving parallel to our route for the past 18 hours. Parallel, not intercepting. Correct. Almost like they're shadowing us, Torres finished, watching without interfering. Hayes zoomed in on the boot pattern. Small, precise. Each step perfectly placed to minimize snow compression and maximize stability. He'd seen that pattern before, years ago, in training exercises where a young sniper had outperformed everyone by treating movement like meditation. Intel. Bravo 6. If Winter Ghost were active, what would her operational parameters be? The radio stayed silent for a long moment. Then that same bureaucratic voice. Bravo 6. You're pursuing a ghost story. Focus on your mission. Acknowledge that I'm pursuing a ghost story. Now, answer my question. Another pause. When the voice returned, it carried a different tone, quieter, almost fearful. If she were active, you wouldn't see her until she wanted you to. And by then, you'd already be in her kill zone. Hayes looked at the ridgeline, at the falling snow, at the vast white expanse that could hide 100 snipers or none. Then, we're already in it, he said softly. The 338 Lapua Magnum round punched through the night air with a sound like tearing silk. It struck a tree trunk exactly 2 meters from Sergeant Torres's position, close enough to make everyone dive for cover, far enough to prove it wasn't meant to kill. Contact! Sniper! Webb shouted, dropping into combat formation. Hayes stayed calm. His training, his experience, his gut, all told him this wasn't an attack. Not yet. Hold fire, he ordered. Nobody shoots. Commander, we've got an active hostile. I said hold fire. Hayes examined the tree trunk. The round had penetrated deep, straight through hardwood. He could measure the trajectory by the angle of entry, working backward, accounting for the bullet's downward arc. That shot came from at least 3,000 meters, Hayes said, maybe more. Impossible, Matthews breathed. Winds gusting at 40 kilometers per hour. Snow's interfering with visibility. The ballistic calculation alone isn't impossible if you're Winter Ghost. The words hung in the frozen air. Every operator knew what that meant. This wasn't a warning from the enemy. This was a message from someone who'd once been an ally. But what was the message? Hayes keyed his radio. Unknown sniper, this is Commander Nathan Hayes, SEAL Team Bravo. Identify yourself. Nothing. Just the whisper of wind through the valley. Then faint, almost lost in the storm, a metallic sound. Click, clack, click. The distinctive sound of someone adjusting a rifle scope at extreme range. She's still watching, Torres said. Who is she targeting? That question again. The question that had no answer. Hayes scanned the valley, trying to see what Elara, if it was Elara, could see from her position. What angle would make sense? What target would justify that kind of precision? She's not targeting us, Hayes realized. She's looking past us. At what? At whoever's waiting for us in that valley. The implications settled over Team Bravo like the falling snow. If Winter Ghost was tracking them, she knew about the ambush. If she knew about the ambush, she'd been watching the enemy prepare. And if she'd been watching, she's counting their numbers, Hayes said, mapping their positions. She's not just a sniper up there, she's our reconnaissance. Then why not radio in? Why the cloak and dagger? Hayes thought about the last mission. About the classified reports he'd been forced to read, heavily redacted, full of operational failures and scapegoats. About a woman who'd been betrayed by her own command structure. Because she doesn't trust command anymore, she only trusts the math. Another metallic sound echoed across the valley. Different this time. The sound of someone chambering around. She's about to shoot, Webb said. At who? The question echoed in Hayes' mind, merging with that other question, who's she targeting, until they became the same question, asked in different ways. Hayes remembered the day he'd met Elara Quinn. It was during advanced sniper training at Fort Benning. She'd been the only woman in a class of 35, and everyone had expected her to wash out by week 2. Instead, she'd posted the highest scores in the class's history. "You don't aim like the others," Hayes had told her after watching her qualify at 2,400 meters. "You don't even seem to think about it." "That's because thinking slows you down," Elara had replied, her voice quiet but certain. "By the time you've calculated windage and elevation, conditions have changed. You have to know the answer before you ask the question. That's not how ballistics works." "No, it's how physics works. The bullet knows where it's going. I just help it get there." Mystical nonsense, Hayes had thought at the time. But then he'd watched her operate in the field, had seen her make shots that should have been impossible, had witnessed her save his own team during a mission in Kandahar when she'd taken out 3 insurgents at 2,900 meters, 3 shots, 3 kills, under 8 seconds. The military had recognized her talent. They'd also feared it. A weapon that precise, that independent, that uncompromising, it made the brass nervous. Then came Operation Frostfall, a classified extraction in the Hindu Kush. Elara's team had been ambushed, caught in a kill zone designed by someone who understood their tactics. The official report said she'd been killed in the resulting avalanche triggered by explosive fire. But Hayes had always doubted, because the report also mentioned that enemy casualties were found at impossible distances, kills made after the avalanche, after Elara was supposedly dead. "If Winter Ghost is up there," Torres said, pulling Hayes from his memories. "What's her angle? Why now? Why help us?" Hayes considered the question. Elara had never been motivated by patriotism or duty. Those were words people used to justify sending others to die. She'd been motivated by something simpler, the refusal to let others die for lies. "Because she knows we're walking into a trap," Hayes answered, "and she knows who said it." "Who?" Hayes looked at his team, good operators, loyal soldiers, men and women who trusted their chain of command. How could he tell them that sometimes the greatest danger came from within? That, sometimes, missions failed, not because of enemy action, but because someone higher up wanted them to fail? "Someone who wanted her dead 5 years ago," Hayes said carefully. "Someone who might want us dead tonight." The implication was clear. This wasn't just a rescue mission. This was something darker, something that reached beyond the valley, beyond Christmas Eve, beyond the simple mathematics of war. "She's not just watching us," Torres realized. "She's protecting us from our own people." "Maybe," Hayes said. "Or maybe she's settling old debts." Either way, the radio crackled. "Bravo 6, this is command. New intel suggests enemy force strength at 60 plus. Recommend immediate abort." 60, 20 more than the previous estimate. Convenient timing for that update. "Command, what's the source of this new intel?" "Classified. Abort and extract. Bravo 6. That's an order." Hayes looked at the valley, at the falling snow, at the distant ridge where someone was watching through a scope. "Negative, command, we're going to get cross." "Bravo 6. Hayes switched off the radio. "Commander," Webb said quietly, "that was a direct order." "I know." Hayes checked his rifle. "But if Winter Ghost is up there, she's showing us something command doesn't want us to see. And I need to know what that is." They came at 0300 hours coordinated, professional, deadly. Muzzle flashes erupted from 3 directions simultaneously. Bullets hammered the snow around Team Bravo's position, kicking up white geysers. The enemy had waited for the perfect moment, when visibility was lowest, when the team was most exposed, when retreat was impossible. "Contact front, contact left, contact right." Webb's voice crackled through the comms. "We're surrounded." Hayes processed the tactical situation in seconds. The enemy had boxed them in a natural amphitheater, using terrain and weather to maximize their advantage. 40 shooters, no, more now, maybe 60, like Command had said, firing from elevated positions with overlapping fields. This wasn't an ambush, this was an execution. "Smoke, throw smoke," Hayes ordered. "Matthews, suppress that eastern position. Torres, find us a way out." The team moved with practiced efficiency, but Hayes could see the math. They were outnumbered 5-1, pinned down in an kill zone, with no air support and deteriorating weather. Even if they fought perfectly, they'd run out of ammunition before the enemy ran out of bullets. "Commander!" Torres pointed to a rock face 30 meters north. "Crevasse, there might provide cover." "Move." Buddy teams, alternating fire. Team Bravo began a fighting retreat, 2 operators providing covering fire while 2 moved, then switching. Military precision against overwhelming odds. They'd trained for this, but training and survival weren't the same thing. Hayes fired controlled bursts, watching enemy positions through his scope. Something bothered him about their tactics. The enemy was firing heavily but not advancing, like they were trying to pin Bravo in place rather than eliminate them quickly. "They're hurting us," Hayes realized. "They want us in a specific location." "Why?" Webb asked, changing magazines. Before Hayes could answer, he saw it. A faint red dot, barely visible through the snow. A laser designator, painting a target on the rock face they were moving toward. "Stop! Everyone stop!" But it was too late. Matthews had already reached the crevasse, had already taken cover behind what looked like natural stone. Hayes watched in horror as the laser dot centered on the rock beside Matthews. Not on Matthews himself, on the rock. "Get away from that wall!" Hayes shouted. "Move! Move now!" Matthews looked confused. "Commander, this is good cover." Then Hayes understood. Understood what Elara had seen from her vantage point 3,000 meters away. Understood why she'd been watching so carefully. Understood what she was targeting. That wasn't just a rock face. That was a cached fuel dump, hidden by the enemy, designed to incinerate anyone who sought shelter there. And somewhere above them, Winter Ghost was lining up a shot. Elara Quinn lay prone on the ridge. Her body merged with the snow and rock. Her rifle, a custom, 338 Lapua Magnum, with modifications that technically didn't exist, rested on a makeshift bipod. The scope's reticle danced in her vision, affected by wind, snow, her own heartbeat. 3,247 meters. 3,247 meters between her position and the fuel cache hidden in that rock wall. Almost exactly 2 miles of air, wind, and chaos. Impossible. Everyone would say it was impossible. She'd spent 18 hours setting up this shot. 18 hours watching the enemy position their ambush. Watching them cache fuel in a natural crevasse. Watching them prepare to incinerate a SEAL team whose only crime was following orders. The same orders that had killed her team 5 years ago. Elara checked her calculations one final time. Wind speed, 42 kilometers per hour, gusting. Direction, northeast but shifting. Temperature, -15 Celsius. Barometric pressure, dropping. Snow interference, severe. Any sniper instructor would tell her not to take the shot. The variables were too unstable, the distance too extreme, the margin of error too small. But Elara had never listened to instructors. She listened to the wind. Through her scope, she watched Team Bravo moving toward the kill zone, watched Matthews take position behind the rock wall, watched Hayes realize the danger too late. She exhaled slowly, letting her heart rate drop. 60 beats per minute, 50, 40. In the space between heartbeats, the world became perfectly still. No wind, no snow, no fear. Just mathematics and faith. She adjusted her scope a final fraction. The fuel cache wasn't visible to the naked eye. It was buried under rock and snow. But thermal imaging had shown her the heat signature, and she knew that a 338 Lapua round, striking at the right angle with the right force, would penetrate the rock and ignite the fuel. One chance, one bullet, one impossible shot to save 12 lives. Elara found that quiet place inside herself where doubt didn't exist, where the distance between trigger and target collapsed into a single moment of absolute certainty. She fired. The report of Elara's rifle was swallowed by the valley's acoustics, distorted by wind and snow into something ethereal, a dry crack that echoed across 3 kilometers like a whispered curse. For 3.2 seconds, the bullet flew, falling through space at 945 meters per second, fighting gravity, fighting wind, fighting probability itself. The round dropped almost 12 meters from its initial trajectory, drifted right by 2 meters, tumbled through thermal layers that tried to push it off course. Hayes heard the shot before he saw its impact, that distinctive sound of a 338 Lapua. He'd heard it hundreds of times, but never from this distance, never under these conditions. "Down! Everyone down!" he shouted, purely on instinct. The bullet struck the rock face with a sound like a hammer on an anvil. For one frozen instant, nothing happened. Hayes wondered if the shot had missed, if even Winter Ghost's legendary skill had limits. Then the world turned orange and white. The explosion wasn't large by military standards, maybe 40 pounds of fuel igniting in a confined space, but it was perfectly placed. The blast wave ripped outward along the enemy's eastern flank, destroying their carefully prepared position. Fire and superheated gas rolled through snow-filled crevasses, finding hidden fighters and cached ammunition. Secondary explosions followed, then tertiary. The enemy's entire eastern position collapsed in a cascade of fire and smoke. Hayes stared in absolute shock. The fuel cache had been invisible from ground level. He'd had no idea it existed. The enemy had hidden it perfectly, intending to use it as a crematorium for Team Bravo. But someone 3 kilometers away, shooting through a blizzard with 40-kilometer winds, had seen it, had calculated a shot that required not just skill, but an understanding of ballistics that bordered on supernatural, and had hit it. First shot, center mass. "Commander." Webb's voice was barely a whisper. "Who the hell just shot that?" Hayes stood slowly, watching enemy fighters retreat in chaos from their devastated position. The ambush had been perfect, the trap had been flawless, and one woman with one rifle had destroyed it with one impossible bullet. "Winter Ghost," Hayes said softly. That was Winter Ghost. Torres was already scanning the ridgeline with her scope. "I can't see anyone, she's just gone." "No," Hayes corrected, "she's reloading." Because the explosion had created an opening, but it hadn't won the fight. There were still 40-plus enemy fighters out there, and now they were angry. Now they knew there was a sniper in the mountains. Now they'd be hunting her instead of Team Bravo, which was exactly what she wanted. She just painted a target on her back, Matthews realized. She sacrificed her position to save us. Hayes grabbed his radio. "Winter Ghost, if you can hear this, thank you. Now get out of there before they zero your position." No response. Just the wind and the distant sound of secondary explosions as the fire found more cached supplies. "She's not going to answer," Torres said. "She doesn't trust radio, doesn't trust command, probably doesn't even trust us." "Then we better move before she sacrifices herself for nothing," Hayes said. That explosion opened a corridor. "We've got maybe 10 minutes before the enemy regroups. Time to get cross and get out." But even as Team Bravo moved out, Hayes kept scanning the ridgeline. Somewhere up there, a woman he'd thought was dead was fighting a one-person war, and he had no idea if she expected to survive it. The explosion had bought them time 7 minutes, Hayes estimated, 7 minutes before the enemy regrouped and realized their prey was escaping. Team Bravo moved fast and silent through the corridor created by Winter Ghost's shot. The eastern flank was still burning, creating smoke cover and thermal confusion. Hayes led them toward the compound where CIA analyst Benjamin Cross was being held. 2 hostiles, 20 meters front, Torres whispered. Suppressed fire, double tap. 2 soft coughs from suppressed rifles. 2 bodies in the snow. They reached the compound, a crude structure built into the mountainside. Stone walls, reinforced door, probably dug deeper into the rock than it appeared from outside. Webb, breach charge. On it? But before Webb could place the charge, something whistled through the air. Another bullet from above. This one struck the door's hinges with perfect precision once, twice, 3 times in rapid succession. The door sagged on broken metal. Hayes looked up at the mountains, though he couldn't see her. "She's clearing our path." "How is she shooting that fast?" Matthews asked. "She has to be repositioning between shots, accounting for our movement, calculating new angles." Later, Hayes cut him off. "Move." They kicked in the weakened door and flowed into the compound. 2 enemy fighters inside, both taken down before they could raise alarms. Cross was in a cell in the back, bloodied, exhausted, but alive. "You guys lost?" Cross asked with bitter humor as Torres cut his restraints. "Just fashionably late," Torres replied. "Can you walk?" "Can I fly?" "Because I'd prefer to fly out of here." "We're working on that. Move." They exited the compound just as enemy fighters began converging from the west and south, the positions that hadn't been destroyed by the fuel cache explosion. Hayes did quick mental math. 60 seconds to reach the extraction point, 24 hostiles closing. Poor odds. Then the snow itself began to guide them. Hayes noticed it first. Bullet impacts in the snow, forming a path. Each impact was deliberate, placed to mark safe footing through the treacherous terrain. Winter Ghost wasn't just providing covering fire, she was literally drawing them a map with bullets. Follow the marks, Hayes ordered. She knows the terrain. Team Bravo ran through the blizzard, following a trail of bullet holes. Behind them, enemy fire grew more intense. Ahead, the snow thickened into a near whiteout. But the bullets kept coming. Each one a breadcrumb. Each one a promise that someone was watching over them. "How much ammo does she have?" Webb asked, breathing hard as they climbed a steep slope. "Doesn't matter," Hayes said. "She'll shoot until she's empty or dead." Another line of bullets struck the snow, this time marking a sharp turn around a boulder that would have channeled them into a kill zone. "She's saving our lives bullet by bullet," Torres said, with something like awe in her voice. Hayes understood what Elara was doing. She'd positioned herself to cover their entire extraction route, was systematically eliminating threats, marking hazards, guiding them through terrain she'd obviously memorized. She was doing the work of an entire fire team by herself. At this distance, in this weather, with enemy fighters now actively trying to locate and kill her, it shouldn't be possible. But Elara Quinn had never cared what should be possible. The blizzard broke as suddenly as it had intensified. One moment, they were blind in white chaos. The next, the sky cleared enough to reveal stars, and the faint shimmer of Aurora Borealis green and purple bands dancing across the northern horizon. And standing on a rock outcrop 300 meters ahead, silhouetted against those ethereal lights, was Winter Ghost. Elara Quinn looked exactly as Hayes remembered and nothing like he expected. Same lean frame, same rifle, but something in her stance was different, harder, more isolated. 5 years of survival had changed her from a soldier into something else. Something feral and precise. Hayes raised his radio. "Winter Ghost, this is Commander Hayes. Identify yourself." Through his scope, he watched her raise her own radio. When she spoke, her voice was quiet, controlled, the same voice he remembered. "Nathan, it's been a long time. 5 years. We thought you were dead. I was. For a while." She lowered her rifle slightly, not threatening, but not disarmed. "Then I decided being dead was safer than being what they wanted me to be." "Who's they?" "The same people who sent you into this valley tonight. The same people who wanted my team dead 5 years ago. The same people who are listening to this conversation right now." Hayes felt ice in his gut. "Our comms are secure." "No, they're monitored. How do you think the enemy knew exactly where you'd be? How do you think they prepared that ambush so perfectly?" "You're saying someone in our command." "I'm saying the rot goes deeper than you know. And I'm saying this rescue mission was designed to fail from the beginning." Torres moved closer to Hayes. "Commander, what's she talking about?" Hayes studied Elara through his scope. She could kill any of them right now. Could have killed them at any point over the past 72 hours. Instead, she'd saved them. "Why help us?" Hayes asked. "If command's compromised, if we're all being set up, why risk exposure?" Through the scope, he saw Elara's expression shift. Not a smile, exactly. More like the ghost of something that used to be a smile. "Because you kept my dog tags," she said softly. "After they declared me Kia, after they classified the mission and buried the truth. You kept my tags in your locker. I saw them once, when I was checking on things." Hayes's hand unconsciously moved to his vest pocket, where he'd carried those tags for 5 years. A reminder, a memorial, a promise that someone would remember the truth. "How did you?" "I've been watching, Nathan, for 5 years, making sure the same thing that happened to my team doesn't happen to others. Tonight, I couldn't just watch anymore." "The 3,247-meter shot," Webb said in awe. "You saved us with an impossible shot." "Not impossible, just improbable." Elara's voice carried a hint of dark humor. "I had 18 hours to calculate. The wind pattern in this valley creates a thermal corridor between 2,800 and 3,300 meters. The fuel cache was hidden from ground level but visible on thermal. The mathematics worked. It always works. You could have missed, Torres said. No, I couldn't. Simple, certain. Because if I missed, 12 people would die for someone else's lies. That's not mathematics. That's unacceptable. Hayes made a decision then. Come with us. We'll evac together. You can testify about the corruption, No. Firm. Final. The people who wanted me dead still want me dead. If I come in, I'm either killed or disappeared. This way, she gestured to the mountains, the snow, the vast empty spaces. I'm free. I can keep watching. Keep protecting. You can't fight them alone. I've been alone for 5 years. I'm used to it. She paused. Besides, I'm not fighting them. I'm hunting them. There's a difference. Elara. The extraction chopper is 4 minutes out. You need to move to the primary LZ. I've cleared the route, it's safe. How did you know about the chopper? I've been listening to all the frequencies, including the ones Command didn't tell you existed. She raised her rifle again, scanning the valley. Go. I'll make sure nothing follows you. Hayes wanted to argue, wanted to convince her that she didn't have to fight this war alone, but he recognized the look in her eyes, had seen it in his own mirror after particularly dark missions. She wasn't running from her demons. She was hunting them. What's your next move? Hayes asked. There's a man in Washington, former colonel. He signed off on both operations, mine and yours, tonight. He's the one who arranges these training accidents. These mission failures. He's been selling operational intelligence to the highest bidder for 8 years. You have proof? I have his communications logs, his bank accounts, his meeting schedules. I have everything except jurisdiction to arrest him. She lowered her rifle. But I don't need jurisdiction. I just need one clear shot. Hayes understood then. Elara wasn't planning to come back. Wasn't planning to testify or seek justice through official channels. She was planning to execute. Don't do this, Hayes said. Let us handle it through proper... Nathan. She cut him off gently. There is no proper channels. The channels are part of the problem. You know this. You've always known this. She was right. And Hayes hated that she was right. The tags, Elara said. I'll want them back someday. When this is finished, when the debts are settled, keep them safe for me. Elara. Merry Christmas, Nathan. And just like that, she was gone. Disappeared into the snow and rocks as if she'd never been there. Hayes swept his scope across the outcrop but saw nothing, not even footprints. Commander, Webb said quietly. Chopper's 2 minutes out. Hayes took one last look at the mountains. Somewhere up there, a ghost was preparing to hunt monsters. He touched the dog tags in his pocket. Let's move out. The UH-60 Black Hawk materialized from the sky like salvation with rotors. Team Bravo loaded Benjamin Cross first, then formed a defensive perimeter as the rest of the team boarded. Hayes was the last one up the ramp. He stood there for a moment, looking back at the valley. The fires from the fuel cache had died down to glowing embers. The snow was already covering the battlefield, erasing evidence of the night's violence. Commander, we need to go, the crew chief shouted over the rotor wash. Hayes climbed aboard, but he couldn't stop scanning the mountains through the helicopter's open door, looking for some sign of her, some indication that Winter Ghost was out there, was safe, was winning her private war. He saw nothing. The helicopter lifted off, banking hard to avoid potential ground fire. The valley fell away beneath them, white and pristine and deadly. Sir, Torres sat down beside Hayes. What are you going to tell Command? About the sniper? About what she said? Hayes pulled out Elara's dog tags. They were worn smooth from 5 years of carrying. The engraving was still legible. Quinn, E. Opos, no religious pref. He closed his fist around them. I'm going to tell them we got lucky, Hayes said. That the enemy made a tactical error with their fuel storage. That we exploited their mistake and completed the mission. You're going to lie. I'm going to protect an asset in the field who's currently conducting a classified operation against embedded traitors in our command structure. Torres absorbed that. And if they ask about the shots? The ones that cleared our path? What shots? I was too busy fighting for my life to notice anything except explosions and enemy fire. Webb leaned in from across the cabin. So we're just letting her do this? Hunt down a former colonel? Execute him? Hayes met Webb's eyes. Would you rather she testify? Go through official channels? Wait for the system to protect itself while she mysteriously dies in custody? No. But. There is no but, Lieutenant. Sometimes the system fails. Sometimes good people have to work outside it. Elara Quinn saved our lives tonight. Saved Benjamin Cross. Probably saved a dozen other teams who would have walked into similar traps. She's earned the right to finish what she started. The crew chief approached. Commander, I'm picking up chatter on enemy frequencies. They're searching the mountains for a sniper, deploying hunter teams. Hayes felt his jaw tighten. How many? At least 30 operators. They're sweeping the northern ridge. The same ridge where Elara had been positioned. She'd be long gone by now. She was too professional to stay in a compromised position. But 30 hunters in those mountains. Even she couldn't evade forever. Nothing we can do, Torres said quietly, reading Hayes' thoughts. She made her choice. Hayes looked down at the dog tags again. Remembered a younger Elara, before the betrayals and the deaths and the long cold years of survival. Remembered her talking about the mathematics of shooting, about knowing the answer before asking the question. He hoped she'd calculated this correctly. Hoped her mathematics extended to hunting colonels and avoiding hunter teams. Hoped the universe still bent to her certainty. The helicopter climbed higher, leaving the Kesher Valley behind. Dawn was breaking in the east Christmas morning. The sun turned the snow-covered mountains into fields of gold and pink. Somewhere down there, Winter Ghost was planning her next impossible shot. She'll be fine, Hayes said, though he wasn't sure who he was trying to convince. She's always fine. Sir, Matthews called from the cockpit. Command's asking for your sitrep. Hayes keyed his headset. Command, Bravo 6. Mission successful. Cross secured. Team intact. Enemy force neutralized by their own ordnance fuel cache detonated during firefight. Request full debrief in 12 hours. Copy Bravo 6. Good work. Return to base. Professional. Clean. No questions about mysterious snipers or 3,247-meter shots or the holes in the official story. Which meant Command either believed the lie or was complicit in the truth. Either way, Elara had been right about the corruption. Hayes looked out the helicopter door one final time. The valley was distant now, a white scar in the mountains. He touched the dog tags again. A promise, a reminder, a debt unpaid. Merry Christmas, Winter Ghost, he whispered. Stay alive. We're not done yet. The helicopter banked south, towards safety and debriefing, and all the comfortable lies that would be filed in official reports. Behind them, in the mountains where physics bent and the impossible became routine, a woman with a rifle was settling old accounts, one shot at a time, one truth at a time. The snow began to fall again, covering her tracks. Winter Ghost had returned, and somewhere in Washington, a former colonel had just become the target of the world's most patient hunter.